I rode all 3 Vekoma Flying Dutchman roller coasters, and here are my thoughts. And I know a lot of other people in the community have done this as well, but this was a huge deal for me, and I've wanted to make this video when I finally rode all 3 since my Coaster Mania vlog, so let's just get into it. Vekoma was the first manufacturer to build the flying roller coaster. They would work with Paramount's Great America in Santa Clara, California to design something that hasn't been seen before. Stealth would open to the public on April 1st, 2000. This ride was a big success for the park. The $17 million roller coaster would give riders a sensation as if they were flying around California's Great America. Vekoma would call this model the Flying Dutchman. Guests would load onto the ride, sit down, and strap in with an over-the-shoulder vest and a lap bar mix. Guests would sit down and adjust the vest to fit with their shoulders and snap it in like a seatbelt, and then a lap bar would come down as an extra safety precaution. The prototype would only last 3 years at the park as it would close at the end of the 2003 season. However, it was relocated to Paramount's Carowinds in 2004. The ride would be repainted to green and black and have a Star Trek theme and would be named to Borg Assimilator. However, Cedar Fair purchased Paramount Parks in 2006. The ride would be painted to its iconic yellow and blue color scheme and would be renamed Nighthawk. On January 4th, 2001, Six Flags Worlds of Adventure in Aurora, Ohio would announce their latest and greatest roller coaster, X-Flight. This ride would open to the public on May 26, 2001, and similar to Stealth, it would be a major hit. Around this time, Six Flags America in Upper Marlboro, Maryland opened up Batwing, another Flying Dutchman roller coaster that is an exact clone of X-Flight. Six Flags Worlds of Adventure was sold to Cedar Fair and renamed back to its original name, Geauga Lake, in 2004. The ride's theme and name would be renamed the same. However, in 2006, just 1 year before Geauga Lake closed for good, X-Flight would be repainted and relocated to Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. In 2007, Kings Island made the announcement that their next roller coaster would be Firehawk. After Firehawk opened, this would be the last installment of any Vekoma Flying Dutchman roller coaster. As a young enthusiast who grew up watching shows like Extreme Rise and Insane Coaster Wars, I always wanted to try out a Flying Dutchman. Plus, I grew up near SeaWorld Orlando my whole life, and I already knew how awesome a flying coaster was with Manta. But the weird design and layout of the Flying Dutchman has always intrigued me. Luckily, I saw an opportunity with one of my favorite YouTube channels, Coaster Kids, hosting a huge meetup at Kings Island on July 16th, 2018. This day didn't only change my life as an enthusiast forever, but the first ever theme park hunting video was filmed at this event. And I met some of my best friends in the entire world on this day, who I still hang out with to this day many years later. In the middle of the day, we approached my first ever Vekoma Flying Dutchman, Firehawk. I was super excited going into this ride. I sat in the back row and I was in absolute shock by the time I came off. The consistent switch from lying on your back to your stomach is just absolutely phenomenal. There truly isn't anything else like this. The drop is great as you feel yourself picking up speed by the second, and the overbank is awesome as your body is getting pushed into those vests. It's an element that you definitely can't find on any B&M flying coaster. I'm surprised no one ever talks about the awesome overbanks on this ride. When the ride flips you on your back, it's so weird to experience this kind of caliber of a coaster backwards, because once it flips you, your sense of direction changes, and even without seeing what's ahead, you then enter my favorite element on any Flying Dutchman, the vertical loop. In the back, you slowly go up and then you get whipped down the loop. I found this element more disorienting and sometimes more intense than the B&M pretzel loops. Flipping back to your stomach is just as disorienting as the first time, and the double barrel roll is one of the best elements you'll find on any flying coaster. Super whippy and super disorienting. The helix at the end is awesome as well, and then you flip back into the brake run. I barely said anything for my first impression, but keep in mind, I was 15.
Okay, so far, I haven't got on a while because I'm busy. I rode Firehawk, Vortex, Backlot. Firehawk was good, second favorite so far.
We're not going to even talk about that voice change. Anyways, after some thinking, Firehawk was my favorite ride at Kings Island, and when they announced its closure later that year, I was heartbroken. Well, don't get me wrong, I think Orion is the best coaster Kings Island has ever built. Firehawk fit perfectly into that park's lineup, and it is truly missed by me. After Firehawk closed, it was my goal to experience the other 2 Flying Dutchmans ASAP. And while it took a couple of years, I finally planned the trip in May of 2021 that would involve me stopping at both Carowinds, which is home to Nighthawk, and Six Flags America, which is home to Batwing. After graduating high school, I knew I had to ride the other 2. With Nighthawk rumored to close for many years now, and with Batwing sitting closed more than it's open and rumors of its replacement coming in, I had to get on these rides ASAP. In August of 2021, I began my trek to Carowinds. I managed to ride every coaster except one that I saved for last, and that was Nighthawk. Luckily, I had fast lane, so I was able to skip the line, which was nice because the line was an hour plus. I was assigned the back row and strapped in. I forgot how bulky and restricting the vests were, but they didn't really bother me because when I was in the flying position, I found it much more comfortable than the B&M vests. The first half was exactly the same as Firehawk and similar to Firehawk. I was in awe of how unique and how intense the ride really was. Since it has now been 3 years since I last rode a Dutchman, the loop and overbank were just as good as I remember. However, Nighthawk had a twist. It keeps you on your back and goes through 2 back-to-back corkscrews, and these are insane. Well, don't get me wrong, it's not anywhere near as smooth or as whippy as the double barrel roll. It is crazier since you get laterals going through this element. It's the weirdest sensation you'll ever feel on a flying coaster. After this, you'll turn into the brake run. When I hit the brakes, I didn't quite understand how people say Nighthawk is unenjoyable or that rough, as I found it pretty smooth besides the corkscrews. The ride itself was a little shaky, but it really wasn't that bad. As you saw, I absolutely love Nighthawk, and I think it's one of the best operating coasters at Carowinds, but I would say it was my least favorite out of the 3 Dutchmans. After stopping at King's Dominion and Busch Gardens Williamsburg, it was now time for my final park of the trip, Six Flags America. Yeah, that's a good way to end a trip. When I entered the park, my plan was to book it to Batwing because I knew how problematic that coaster really was. Unfortunately, it was the farthest coaster away from the park's entrance. When I finally made it to Batwing, I was super excited to ride Firehawk's exact clone. I got in line and I walked right onto the ride, this time in the front row. I strapped in and dispatched out of the station, and when the ride came off the lift hill, I was super excited because I knew there's nothing stopping me from riding this now. The overbank and loop were awesome, and experiencing the double barrel roll again was truly something special. When I hit the brake run, I was just so happy for many reasons. 1, I got to experience one of my all-time favorite coasters again, and 2, I have now experienced all 3 Vekoma Flying Dutchmans. Batwing is my personal favorite ride at Six Flags America, and while I know it doesn't have a long time left at the park, I hope I get the opportunity to ride it one more time before it goes defunct. Its smooth layout, whippy transitions, and forceful inversions were just super unique for the park. How I would rank them is, in last place, Nighthawk. While the ride is the best setting and color scheme out of the 3, it is also the roughest. Plus, it isn't as whippy or as forceful as the others since it has the corkscrews and it's the original prototype for the Flying Dutchman model. Number 2, we have Batwing. I like how it's isolated in the back of the park and the pathway to the ride itself has some really nice touches. It's easily the most themed ride in the park. The station looks really nice, but it doesn't really have any theming at all throughout the ride. Plus, it's easily the ugliest looking out of the 3, but it is still a fantastic ride. Finally, at number 1, we have Firehawk. It's easily the smoothest one out of the 3, but its red and gray color scheme and its theme worked really well in that section of Kings Island. Plus, it fits so well in the coaster lineup, and it is easily the most intense out of the 3. It's sad that out of all of the Dutchmans, this is the only one as of now that's defunct, so those are my thoughts. It is sad that Vekoma didn't make more of these rides when they were popular. I personally prefer all 3 Dutchmans over any of the B&M flying coasters I've done. So for those who haven't yet, I highly suggest you make a visit to either Carowinds or Six Flags America to ride one of these rare models. But now you know my thoughts on one of the coolest coaster models ever made, the Vekoma Flying Dutchman. Thank you all for watching, and if you've ridden any of the Vekoma Flying Dutchmans, drop a comment down below and tell me what you think of this super unique model. To ensure you don't miss a video here on Theme Park Hunting, be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell. Also, to hear more of my thoughts on these Dutchmans, make sure to check out my podcast On the Hut, where we dive into these complex ideas. Finally, if you ever need some non-copyrighted off-rides or POVs, check out my second channel, TPH Productions. As always, this is Hunter from Theme Park Hunting. I'll see you guys later, and follow the thrill.